Hey guys, I just wanted to reach out to you and let you know that Surewinder is still selling amazing products. Some of you guys have been dragging your feet for whatever reason. If your shoulder hurts, do not waste time. Pull the trigger. I just bought 4 or 5 of them, and we had 2 guys out. You know how much it cost me to pay for 2 guys being out with bad shoulders? We just pulled the trigger and we said, listen, everybody's going to have one on a truck. It's mandatory. You got to use it. Don't hesitate. Don't wait till your guys go down. It's going to cost you more. Buy a Surewinder.
What's up, everybody? And I don't know what's going on in your world, but my world is crazy. We have a lot going on. We launched Phantom Screens, as I told you guys. Holy cow. We have not even started marketing. And I believe we have like $100,000 worth of screens signed off on. They do their own marketing and they are pushing it hard. You guys just heard their podcast. We had Esther on, which actually went live today, I believe.
It's Tuesday. Yes, it did.
Yeah. So she's incredible. If you haven't checked that podcast out, make sure you do that because I think it's really good. My house is being built.
Looks great.
Tamara, yeah, it looks like a bunch of lumber, some sticks on top of each other.
It does not. It looks good.
And then Aaron Overhead Doors is launching our Buckhead location. We bumped into so many issues getting that built out, but we are finally close to the finish line, which reminds me I gotta get with Josh on the sign. We're gonna attempt to make our own sign. So this is our attempt at cutting back because we're so over budget.
I love that for Josh.
Yeah, I love it, Josh. Like, why isn't it ready yet, bro? I mean, you're just running a company. Why don't you have this sign already made? Then we've got such and such media is just growing so much. We've hired so many new people between Aaron Overhead Doors and such. And then GDU. Look at GDU. Like, ever since I put Tamara in charge, things are like blowing up and doing good. We're having new people join. Even had one person come back that left.
Yes.
All the buzz and good stuff's going on in those groups. Lots of growth and positivity. It's really good if you're a business owner and you're going through it right now, like a lot of people are, to know that you're not the only one. You can talk about it with other people in the door business. These business owners lay it all out on the line and are really, really just honest and truthful with each other. And then we're planning GDU Summit.
Yes, we are.
GDU Summit was a freaking rock star in 2022.
It was really awesome. I don't want to toot our own horns, but it was fantastic. Yeah.
Toot. Yeah. Just toot our own horn. That was a killer event. Tamara did a phenomenal job with that. This year, though, I'm going to tell you, like, I didn't think we could do it, but we actually are pulling off a better event than we did before. We're going to have it at Lake Lanier at Legacy Lodge, which our guest probably knows about that. We'll introduce him here in a second. But we've already secured Jesse Itzler as our speaker, who's also part owner of the Atlanta Hawks, but one of the most amazing public speakers I've ever heard in my life. He's going to stretch us. He's going to make us laugh. He's going to make us cry. I think I've heard his speech, like the one he does all the time, like 3 times, and every time it's just as good. And I still get so much out of it. But he's incredible. And I wanted to share that moment that I've gotten from him with other people. So we paid a massive amount of money to have him come in and speak. And we got some other speakers. The theme's going to be sales and marketing. We're going to have some entertainment. We're renting a big boat. We're going to go out on the lake, have a lake party. We're doing all kinds of stuff. So if you're interested, we're doing a fishing tournament. There's great striper fishing in Lake Lanier. So if you want to be part of that, make sure you check out garagedoorU.com. We'll have a landing page up soon for that and updates on that homepage, so you can go check out the details. But that's going to be in September.
Yep.
Anything you want to add to that, Tamara?
Well, if you want to mark yourself off on the calendar, which I think you totally should, the dates are actually September 10th through 14th. And then when we open for registration, you won't worry about being already booked.
Boom. There you go. And we're trying to launch Garage Door U for techs.
Yes.
Had technicians here for 2 days. Yesterday, I did all day training on sales in the garage. And then we, today, David Mount's back there right now with all 15, 16 people, my staff and the people who registered here training on technical things, and their minds are being blown. Like I'm sitting here watching them. It's so good. Even techs that have been in the business for a long time are back there learning stuff. So thank you guys for your support on the Torch Talk podcast. I've had so many people reach out to me recently, just telling me how the podcast has impacted them. New guys starting a business, old guys. Thank you. We don't hear like enough of that. Like, you can hit us up all the time. We love it. We appreciate it. If you don't like it, just keep your opinion to yourself and don't listen to it. We don't really care. Today's guest, we love to educate. My promise in this podcast is to educate and entertain. So those are the two things I try to do in every podcast. This one's going to be a little bit more educational. And Brian has been on the podcast before. He's with Majestic Steel, and he just brings the nuggets to help us kind of prepare for what's going on in the economy, what's going on with steel, knowing that majority of the things that we work with, the track, the door sections, everything is mostly steel, all the parts. This is good information for us to have. So Brian hit me up. He's like, hey man, there's some shaking going on in the industry. I want to come on the podcast and give an update. And I'm like, absolutely, bro. So anytime he calls me and wants to give an update on the podcast, I get him on. So here he is. Brian, how are you, bro?
I'm doing great. I'm excited that you're having Jesse Itzler out there. I met him about 5 or 6 years ago. I didn't realize who he was, and I was there with his wife Sarah at an office building that we were looking at.
You founded Spanx, by the way.
Yes, exactly. And so I'm there. They're part of our company was looking at some office space, and so I just look at him and I said, so what do you do? I didn't know anything about him. And he said, well, I had a plane company, and then I had the
water
company and coconut water company. And I said, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I go home and Google him. I'm like, boy, do I feel like an idiot. So interesting story with that. But it was a funny story, just talking to him, very energetic, and I would follow him on Instagram, and it's just, that's awesome to be able to have him come to your event. He's really good.
Yeah, he's great.
We're excited about it for sure.
So humble too, like hanging out with everybody, like just being amongst the group. Like he doesn't feel like get that feeling like he's better than everybody else. He has like events where he does a lot of running, and he's just hanging out with everybody and doing ice baths with everybody, and it's crazy.
Yep, the hill that he's got. So yeah, so that's great. So, but talking about the steel industry, lots of crazy things that are going on right now with the price of steel. And actually we can kind of go back. I mean, it's 3 years ago since the pandemic really was kicking, full into gear. And just a few things to kind of look at, and just some numbers to throw at you. The average price for steel for hot dip galvanized, which is what's used in making garage doors, the average price for that year was $37.93. So in 2020, your average price was $37.93. But what's funny is when you went to 2021, the average price was $91.39. So with the high of it being $109 per hundredweight. So basically a little over $1 a pound was your high. But what we saw in 2022 was that pricing went from $91 a hundredweight or 91 cents a pound down to 68 cents. So I'm sure you guys out there in the garage door industry are like, well, where's my decrease? Did I see any decreases that were coming? Because Lord have mercy, in 2021, everybody got increases, but was in 2022, did you see any kind of decreases? And then what was funny is now we're into 2023. Year to date, the average price for hot dip galvanized is at 50 cents a pound. So you can see it's trending downward. But now what's funny is that's our average price, but the price today for steel for hot dip galvanized is at roughly 64 cents a pound, which is at an all-time high for this year. The lowest was at 44 cents. And all of my clients are all asking me, Brian, why is my price going up? My business is not that great. I'm working through my backlogs. Demand is nowhere near what we saw during the pandemic, but why is my price going up? And that is a great question. And so with myself and mainly the team at Majestic, our analysts, we've got two guys, Chris Billman, Scott Peskowitz. Follow them on LinkedIn. They're really, really good with providing us, information. The owner of our company, Todd Lebo, is one of the best, if not the best, at buying steel in the country. But that's where we get our information from. And what's interesting is the mills, through consolidation, and we've kind of talked about this before, Ryan, is there's only 4 mills in the United States that control over 76% of the production in the US. So basically, they know that they've got everybody here in the US, where they want them, especially if there's not much offshore material coming into the country, which there's not. So they're able to go ahead and raise prices, and a lot of it has to do with cost. So there's costs that go into making steel, the input costs, whether that's scrap, if you're one of the mini mills like Nucor or Steel Dynamics, iron ore and coke and coal are all up. But most importantly, it has to do with supply. So during the pandemic, when pricing shot up, it was a combination of supply and demand. Everybody wanted everything, but they couldn't get anything. So it was supply and demand. Today, it's not so much demand as it is about supply. And some of the things that we're seeing are, in over the next 60 days, we're going to see the mills taking out capacity for maintenance to the tune of about 336,000 tons. And what that does is it creates the lead times for them to make steel longer. And the longer the lead times it is to get steel from the mill, the higher the price is. So an interesting thing that I would say is about 30 to 45 days ago, the average mill lead time was about 7 weeks. Today, it's about 9 weeks. So in just 30 to 45 days, it's moved out 2 weeks. We're hearing of different things where certain products, the lead times are being pushed out to August. For the pipe industry. So lots of things that are going on right now, but the main thing to focus on right now is these are basically supply related, not a whole bunch of demand related, but basically supply related price increases. So I know I just threw a lot at you just now. So, fire away with some questions. Be glad to answer them for you.
Yeah. So, I was listening to a guy who's in a similar position to you in the wood industry. And he's like, what their experienced was the demand was so high because people were at home and they were buying things like, building decks and making all these home improvements. So you got a supply and demand issue that drove the price of lumber up. And plus, there was a tree problem in Canada where this bug was like infesting these trees and, whatever, right? So you have all these problems going on. And then on top of that, the mills were like, hey, we need to expand so we can keep up with demand because we don't know how long this is going to go on. So they started like expanding. And now they have this additional overhead because they expanded, but demand has dropped. So it's holding the lumber prices higher than it should because they're trying to compensate for the increased overhead of the expansion. Now, I do know for a fact that, and I guess it's a fact, unless you correct me, I was told that the steel manufacturers did something similar. They were building new facilities, like fixing and increasing their production. And so I imagine they said it was going to take about a year. And that I was hearing a lot about that at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. And I don't know where that ended. I heard that was over a year ago. So is that part of it too? Like these mills launch new locations or got new equipment to ramp up and be able to handle more. And then now the demand is gone, but they still got to pay for all that stuff. And they're baking that into the price of steel.
Good question. I would say that you're partly right. The new capacity is coming online. It's coming quickly. However, when you bring on new capacity, like for instance, Steel Dynamics is putting a facility down in Sinton, Texas. It's going to be state of the art, and Steel Dynamics is a big supplier to the garage door industry. It's not coming on as quickly as you'd like. Anytime you have startup, you think you're going to produce maybe 3 million tons in a year, and you end up only producing 1.5 million tons. And so where you anticipate that supply coming, the capacity just doesn't catch up yet. However, that supply is coming. It's just going to take some time getting here. Production issues in ramping it up has kind of slowed things down a little bit on the production side of it, but it is coming. So that what I would say, as you're looking at managing, how many doors do I really need to purchase? How many, how am I managing my costs? The things that I would be looking at would be, okay, what's the economy doing? I mean, we had a huge scare over the last 2 weeks with these banks closing. That kind of brings back, oh my God, what happened? Look what happened in 2008, 2009. What's going on in the banking industry? What's going on with demand? I mean, interest rates are rising, the housing starts are slowing down, and the amount of permits, new housing permits have slowed down. So, I mean, the housing industry has basically slowed down with these interest rates rising. However, I think the pricing of housing is going to stay up due to the fact that the inventories are pretty tight. But as far as new buyers coming in and buying up houses, I think that's probably going to slow things down. I think interest rates rising hurts all of us from a standpoint of the things that we want to do around our house, whether it's put in a new garage or any one of those things that we have to do, new garage door. It slows the whole process down. So I think, as we go to the second half of the year, I would be cautious about purchasing things as we go along here with interest rates being the way they are. And I think if I feel that way, I think manufacturers are going to be careful about what they buy. And the worst thing that the mills want is people to only buy what they need. They want you to buy gangbusters and throw volume into their production. And I don't know that we're going to see that. In my opinion, maybe the second half. That's what I'm kind of concerned about. I don't know for certain, but I'd be concerned about the second half of the year.
Yeah. So I'm hearing a lot of like doom and gloom, but I'm also hearing, some positive stuff. I don't nobody really knows. One thing we do know is back in 2008, 2009, it was flipped. We had more houses than we had people. And a lot of the homes were investor homes. Now you've got more people than homes, so the inventory is low. So you still have people able to build, but construction loans are ridiculously high. So that raises the price of the home because builders are baking that in, right? And then, all these people scared to have over $250,000 in a single account because FDIC only insures up to 250, although they're bailing out all of the depositors who had more than that, and the SVB and what was the other one? Signature Bank, and then you had Swiss. But you hear all these things about Swiss Bank and all the corruption and the money laundering charges and all this stuff. And then, you look at the banking system as a whole is completely broken, in my opinion, in the first place. Here I am trying to get a mortgage 6 months ago, and, I'm getting turned down left and right. I got 800 credit score, excellent income with no debt. And I'm getting turned down left and right because of a 2020 tax return during COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, are you freaking kidding me right now? And so I got turned down by multiple banks. Nobody would talk to me about a traditional mortgage. I had to get a statement loan with a 7.5% interest rate when the rates were down to 5%. So I got, I'm frustrated with the banks right now just because, I got money in the bank, and, my commercial accounts, they don't gain interest. I don't get interest on my, my money in the bank. And and you go ask them if I can get interest on a commercial account, they'll laugh at you. But I get interest on my personal. But then if you deposit $1,000, they're going to lend that $1,000 to 3 people. So they're over leveraged. And that's why you have these bank runs, right? People get scared. First one to the bank gets their money because they don't have it. They've lent your $1,000 out to 3 people. So if you get to the bank before everybody else does, and you take your money out, then the next guy comes take his money out, that $1,000 is gone. So the banking system is broken, in my opinion. The banks got greedy. They continue to get greedy. The government's gotten greedy and has put us in this position of where we're at. And I think you also have large corporations with tons of greed. And it's just got us in a little bit of a pickle. But you know who's really capitalizing on all this? All the inside trading and the government, which is freaking fun to watch.
Consistency in everything, including price, reliability, quality, not just quality, but great quality control. These are things that describe Somer USA. Somer's not some startup company, not one that you need to be worried about going out of business in the near future. Somer and their family of businesses are $200 million companies. They're in over 100 countries, and they have locations in 20 countries. This is a large organization who stands behind their product and works through integrity. And there's not another company out there willing to drop what they're doing and help you out like Somer. These guys are awesome. Not only have they been loyal to the Torsion Talk podcast, they've been loyal to the technicians and the owners of the companies who install their product. In my opinion, if you're not at least offering Somer as an additional option, you're cheating yourself. Listen, first-time dealers, I've got a special for you. If you buy 10 or more Somers, while supplies last, we will offer you free shipping. You have no more excuses. The prices are great. The product is amazing. Go check out Somer USA and order 10 for free shipping.
So I went on my little tangent, but I'm very passionate about this stuff. I think you also have inflation on the dollar that I think steel people also watch, right? Any material like that, they're also baking in inflation and things. So what is the outlook for garage doors, you think, through the rest of the year?
I would think that demand is probably gonna fall off a little bit as we go along. I think that the price of steel could, for the second half of the year, be in a position to watch. Whether or not 2 things happen. Number one, if automotive comes back and everybody wants to, and all the dealerships want to go ahead and fill up their dealerships, okay, well then all of a sudden there's a huge demand for steel and the price goes up.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I think you're right. I think that the idea of walking in and buying a car that day and having and driving it off the lot like everybody says, I think those days are numbered. I think my wife and I bought a car about a month ago, and it's not going to be here for another 3 months. So I think those days are over, but you never know. I think that I'm not too bullish on the economy for the second half of the year, and I think that I think people are going to play everything close to the vest, and manufacturers are going to be in kind of a different program, because they're going to be thinking, hey, what happened to all the sales that we had 2 or 3 years ago, and now we don't have those sales anymore. So I think there's going to be some pullback, in my opinion.
Yeah. I've even thought about reaching out to like local dealers here and like merging with them and making us all stronger.
I say that's a good move for you, to be quite honest with you. I think there's always, whenever you're managing a supply chain, there's always strength and leverage. And so right, in our industry, we're forced as salespeople to show all of our cost, the cost of the steel, the cost to produce it, the cost for SG&A, the cost for profit, the cost for freight. All of those things are all put in cost models, believe it or not. They're called should cost models. But I would think, in my opinion, that in your industry, you don't have that. It's like, here's the price of your door, and this is where you're at, because that whole supply chain model hasn't gotten down to you guys yet, where you bring in a guy and he's going to want to negotiate with a manufacturer and say, okay, what's the cost of your steel, and what's the cost to paint it, what's the cost of manufacture it, what's the cost to freight it.
What's that called? What report?
It's called a should cost model.
Should cost model.
Should cost model.
So we should start promoting that all dealers ask their suppliers for a should cost model. She's smiling.
Love you just shaking up the industry, just causing trouble.
But if they're asking it from their suppliers, why would it be critical not to provide it to us for ours?
We talked about something similar to this in one of the podcasts you were on previously. Yeah.
I think we need to implement it, and we need to get the word out so everybody does it.
Yeah, I think if you're a garage door university and you're getting together and you say, man, I need help in running my business, understanding, okay, well, wait a second, the price of steel in 2021 to 2022 went down from $91 to $68, and it should cost model. You should be able to see that type of decrease in the steel costs in theory. And so,
you know what? Like, I'm okay with the price of the doors staying the same. Where I think I'm frustrated is that they took the profit. They actually, it sounds like they just added it to the bottom line, right? The quality control still sucks. And we're not getting any benefit from it. So I'll tell you, like I mentioned with Phantom screens, right? Like, Phantom screens is not the cheapest screen in the market, but they're the best. Not only are they the best screen, but they're the best company, in my opinion, because we've sold screens from other companies, but you know what? We had to generate every single one of the leads. I haven't generated my own lead, I don't think, yet. From like marketing, we don't do any marketing for them. And we're getting about 10 to 15 phone calls a day. That's a lot.
A lot.
That's Phantom. Phantom did that.
Yeah.
They're generating the business in my market for me. So, like, when you look at these manufacturers, and I always compare like garage doors to, say, like the automotive industry, because it's very similar. We're door dealers, you got automotive dealers, you got the manufacturers that manufacture the cars, and there's some differences, of course. You got, like, they do run the franchise model. We don't, from the manufacturer, have franchise agreements with us. So I get it, but there's little to no direct consumer advertising and marketing. They do offer like co-op, but it's not very much. It's not going to make a dent really in the market. But, like, why aren't we taking some of those profits and helping the dealers generate business, especially in a time where it's really slow? Like, if there was an innovative door company that built beautiful doors, but also became a partner and helped us build our businesses, that would be incredible. Like, I would imagine people would flock to that manufacturer. Like, they would eat it up.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, because, one of the things that we do at our company, some of the companies that we deal with, they resell our product. And so whether it's a HVAC wholesaler or whatever, and we will actually have where our sales reps will go in and work with their sales reps on and having them understand steel, how to resell it, talking about like the value of thickness and product and so on and so forth, to be able to take steel and take it away from being what's quote unquote a commodity, and then turning it into more of a strategic item. And so, like, for instance, in your industry, I mean, you've got, you know, your garage doors, but there's always going to be a garage door that's going to be different than other companies' garage doors, and people are going to pay for that. They just need to know they just need to know what those differences are, and if it's a value to them. So I would say, you know, that's a huge thing, innovation and engineering, as it pertains to the garage door industry, you know, is huge. Whether, you know, I know there's a way that you can open and close your garage door with your cell phone, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know about it. But if someone taught me about it, that would be unbelievable. To be able to sit here and just say, okay, you know what, here comes the HVAC guy into my house, and I'm sitting at my desk and I'm on a Zoom call. I can send him a text saying, hey, I'm letting you in. Hit my cell phone, and the garage door opens up, right? So I think, you know, as busy as we all are, people want things to make their lives easy. Look at Amazon, right? People buy from Amazon. Why? Because it's easy.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, dude.
Yeah, I think though what's missing with garage door manufacturers on the dealer end is really the support issue. Like they do, like there's certain companies offer certain things, but they, as a whole, there's some of them that are really good about it. But as a whole, I see, at least from what I hear from the guys in GDU, they don't get a lot of support from their manufacturers or even their DCs. Sometimes there's a couple of them like Joe that are doing a really fantastic job. But the guys just end up feeling really alone, you know?
And the phones are slow right now, bro.
Yeah, which is scary for them.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, we don't run on the biggest margins in the world. It's hard to run a door company and have, you know, 15, 20% net margins. That's rare, real rare. And I've talked to some pretty good dealers in the country, and there are some people in that range, but they're few and far between. And if they are, because of the way we have to run our business with material costs and labor and cost of labor and all the overhead we have to do and marketing and how competitive it is, like our cost of acquisition per customer have gone up recently, and then we're getting less phone calls. So we're decreasing there and increasing in another. And it's just like you got no regulation in our industry. So these guys who work for a company, they see the opportunity, they go out and start their own company. So here you are, you got like more door companies, less people in the pie. So the slices of the pie are smaller. The cost of acquisition is more. You're getting less jobs, and it's costing you more expensive to do it. And so just our overall expenses on the ground level, like what would cost a customer $300 just 3 years ago is now like almost $700 on our end. And we're still not crushing it, you know? And so this is a real problem for consumers because we're being forced to continue to raise our rates. And, you know, you get some irate customers who are really pissed off about it, but we're just trying to run our business in a way that's healthy and allows us to make a fair profit. And that's not suitable because people are also overpaying at the grocery store, the restaurant, and everything else, the clothing store to buy kids for, you know, their kids' clothes and shoes. So they don't have extra income to give when their spring breaks. So it's, you know, you got a lot of pressure right now on consumers, on door companies, on home service companies in general. And, you know, on top of all of that, dude, like America's running, I think, on the highest credit card debt average per person in the country. It's history. It's either close to it or we're above it. And credit cards, there's no fixed rate credit card fees, right? Like it's all variable based on the current rate. So if you were at 13% 2 years ago, you're probably at like 20% right now on it. I mean, you're hardly paying any principal unless you're paying a massive amount over the minimum bill. So what is that? You know, like, where does that go? You know? So, I mean, you got all this stuff compounding on itself. And then the government just keeps printing money and talking about they want to bring down inflation. You can't keep printing and bring down inflation. Like it's actually the definition of inflation is to create more of something to the point where the value of it is lost. And they just keep doing it. So you got all this stuff, and I get these phone calls because I got a marketing agency, I got the podcast, I got GDU. I talk to a lot of business owners in the industry. February was the worst month we've ever had in our company's history at Aaron Overhead Doors. And it wasn't by a little, it was a lot. And I didn't panic because, quite frankly, I keep a good eye on our reports. Or, I track sales very closely because revenue follows sales. And my pipelines were bigger than they've ever been before. And commercial has really been pumping lately, but we didn't get that pump in Q4 like we normally do. So I'm kind of feeling like that pump's kind of starting now a little bit. But residential, bro, it's down. It's way down. And all these people are calling me like, hey, bro, what am I doing? Like, how come I get phone calls? And I'm like, dude, look, it's down everywhere. It's not just you. You got less shoppers, you got more dealers. The piece of the pie is being cut in smaller pieces. And this is where you got to start really looking at either acquiring dealers, selling out, or merging with people. And I think that's kind of the move for a lot of people right now. Like, you got so many dealers out there. That just may be the answer.
Yeah, I mean that's hard in any business when you have too many distributors or too many people, too many middlemen. It really creates it, and it's tough for the manufacturers too, because you guys are all screaming because you need more business, and then you're going to be frustrated with XYZ company over here because they're selling it so cheap. So what do? You go back to the manufacturer and say, well, hey, how does XYZ company over here sell this garage door at below my cost, or just
Right.
a little bit above
That
my
just
cost?
happened the other
Yeah.
day.
Oh yeah. And it happens all the time in the steel industry. I mean, you'll be frustrated because you'll be like, okay, you think your cost is right. You think your sales price is right based on what you bring to the client, based on what you're doing, and then all of a sudden you find out from your sales rep, hey, yeah, we lost this because the guy paid below what our cost is, and you're constantly just scratching your head and saying to yourself, this distribution program should not be this messy. So in other words, a guy like you who's doing all these different things for the garage door industry, you have a facility, you have you have all of these things. In theory, you should be buying better than the guy that's just working something out of his pickup truck, and and devaluing the product that's being put into the marketplace. So that's it's funny you say that with the with the industry that you're in, because we see it the same thing in the steel industry, where a company may not have bricks and mortar, but for whatever reason they get a great deal and they put it in the marketplace, and then you're like, well, what happened here? So
It's called bribery, and it works. You get nude photos, and if they don't sell it to you cheap. I don't know, bro. I don't know the answers. I watch every day, and sometimes I get a little frustrated and stressed out, and I have to detach from it, because I mean, you can't control the situation. You can just try to make good decisions. It's out of your control. Like, where this ship is headed is not in our control. But how do we optimize and make it through it, right? Like, I don't think this is a long-term thing. Honestly, I think if we can just clean out the government that we've got in there now, and then put in business savvy people who make intelligent decisions for the best interest of the country, I think that fixes a lot of things. Tamara, what?
Nothing. I like how you phrased that specifically.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to tap dance around it. This dude's a freaking nut job, and I don't even know if he knows what's going on. And here we are, like, paying the price for all these stupid ass decisions he's making. And I'm just freaking frustrated. So, but it's out of our control. Like, we voted him in, apparently. Yes. And like, here we are. Like, we gotta live with it. And as a business owner though, you're like, dang, I'm getting squeezed from every angle. Employees are asking for raises, right? Why don't they deserve raises? Because their cost of living is going up. I'm an employer. I want to say yes, 100%, dude. Yes, absolutely. You deserve a raise. Like, it's like you just moved to California, but you're still in Georgia because the cost of living, like houses going up 30%. Your property tax bills have freaking gone up. Have you guys seen your property taxes? Brian, you're in Georgia. Like, I don't know if you paid attention to it. It may be escrowed, but your payments going up. If you're not escrow, then you're getting a bigger bill for your property. Like, all this stuff is happening and people are still getting paid. Like, you're not seeing the wages of employees going up across the country. But I think a lot of it has to do with business owners are scared to increase wages because we're not making the profits that we want. And it's a grind, right? So, we did raises last year on with a lot of people, and the fuel prices went up. But guess what? We didn't increase our prices in the market, so it kind of bit us a little bit. We could have done better last year. This year, we're about to raise our prices. I'm going up across the board. Everything's going up 3.5% for April 1st, 3.5% across the board, everything. Why? Because we're not making enough and we're struggling and we got to go up. But that's the minimum that we figured out that we could do and make an impact, positive impact, where we felt like it was comfortable for everybody. So, I mean, what do you do?
You have to go up. I mean, your costs are up, everybody's up, and you gotta hope that the rest of the people in your space are going to do the same thing. But you can't count on it. So then you have to go back to say to yourself, what can I do to drive value to my clients, to be able to say, hey, to get that 3.5%, or if I'm not going to get the 3.5%, what if I get two of the 3.5%? I mean, it's a constant battle for salespeople to be able to get to selling a price increase and being able to sell that value. Fortunately, if you've done all the right things on the front end, as far as engagement with your client, taking care of your client, doing all those things to, like what Tamara was saying. Okay, so supporting your client, being there to work with them in the field, then it's not as bad to sell that increase, because hopefully all those things that you've done are worth more than 3.5%.
Right.
We talk about that exact thing in GDU all the time, is that it starts, like we tell the guys, Ryan tells the guys, that it starts your value, like the whole experience starts with the first phone call. So it's the CSRs, it's the texts that they're getting when the texts are on the way, the calling, the experience they actually have in the garage. Every single touch is part of that selling the value. And I think that's really important, and I'm glad you mentioned that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have a term that we use. My wife is an interior designer. There is the white glove service.
Yes, exactly.
Or you can just get the regular service. So it's funny, as I was talking to one of our sales reps, and I said, look, this is a real important client of ours. I want you to give her the white glove service. And I said, I know you know what that means, because you drive a Lexus at your house. You know what white glove service means. And I said, your husband, when you have some furniture delivered, does not want to take a big sectional up the steps, tear an ACL and hurt himself and have to go to the hospital. You want that white glove service. So you pay the extra $250 to have it delivered in. I want you to give that same white glove service to the client. And the clients really do appreciate that. And they remember that, because the other people that are out there are not doing it. And if you can differentiate yourself in that way, then either you're going to get the 3.5% without them even thinking about it, or they'll want to negotiate a little bit, or they'll say, you know what, hey, you really are worth the 3.5%. I probably would have paid you 5%, so you left money on the table.
Yeah.
So,
Big Rob was telling us that he was telling him
Your audio is weird. So I guess that's a good opportunity for us to go ahead and wrap up. Brian, do you have any final thoughts or?
No, I don't. I really thank y'all for having me on here. I look forward to seeing Ryan Thursday night.
Yes.
And it should be fun. And so good luck with everything. And I look forward to being on the next podcast with you guys. Thank you so much for the experience. I really have enjoyed being on it with you guys.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on today. And for those of you that are listening, again, if you have any questions about Garage Door U, you can reach out to me directly or go to garagedooru.com. You can share the Torsion Talk posts on the Facebook page. That really helps us out a lot. And we will see you guys next week.